OTP, I'm Amie Wells. The off-season program for the Tennessee Titans has ended. OTAs, done. Mandatory minicamp, also done. So, we are going to talk about it. I'm joined by Rhett, Bryan, and Coach Mac, Dave McGinnis, our Titans radio gurus and knowers of all things Tennessee Titans. There's a lot to unpack here because we haven't really talked about football this whole offseason. There's been so many different things going on. There's been a lot of changes, a lot of roster additions, so much stuff happening this offseason. We need to now sit down and really talk ball. And I figured you guys were the best guys to do that with. So I want to start with Mac because you've done this many, many times before. You've put together off-season programs. And there's so many different things that are talked about throughout an off-season program. What this guy looks like, what that guy looks like. Is he better? Is he worse? Is he fatter? Is he skinnier? Is he taller? Is he shorter? All of these different things. What are you actually trying to accomplish as a staff, as a team, throughout the off-season program? Because you can't do everything.
Well, the first thing is, I mean, they put together a really generally a brand new football team. Mm-hmm. So once you do that, this group has been together in some form or fashion, at least for one season. But as coaches, you look back in retrospect as the year that you've had. What could we do better as coaches? How can we more help our players? And then after you go through the draft, and we know what a process that is, then you bring the young players into it, and this is what all of this was about, was seeing how they're going to fit into your scheme of what you're doing. You install and you start to install what you want to do offensively, defensively. You throw everything at them. You throw it all at them, and then finding out, here's two things that you find out during this time. The first thing that's important is find out who you don't think cannot do it. You find that out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Now, they haven't slotted anybody. There's still 91 players here. Is that correct, Rhett?
That is
There's
correct.
still 91 players, so they haven't slotted anybody in to exactly what they will be doing once we get into the training camp. All of that stuff will start to tunnel in and narrow. But everybody came from it's like having your bright lights on. Everything came from a big picture first, and now it starts to narrow down. We could see it even during this mandatory OTA, these 3 days, these 3 practices. It was even different than from what they have done before. You get more time with them. You can meet with them afterwards. So it's been very productive, and the thing that I liked about it, Amie and Rhett, and for our listeners, everybody that was healthy was here participating. Mm-hmm. And even if the guys that weren't here, some of your vets, and you're never going to get 100% of the vets here, but you knew what they were doing. And you're constantly in contact with them. But when they all came together, it's got a pretty good look to it right now. Is it a finished product? By far, no. But it's a start.
Rhett, you were out at practice for all 3 of the mandatory practices. Tell me what you noticed. Were there some overall observations that you took away from that time?
I would start with piggybacking off of what Max said with the participation. That's huge in this. And talking to Bryan Callahan about it, it is a direct result of what they have done in all the months leading up to this in the procurement of talent through both free agency and the draft of who's a Titan. What's the definition of a Titan, and who are you, and what do we want you to do? The buy-in is huge because Mac's right. There was basically one superstar that wasn't here leading up to that, and he showed up this week, and it was pretty much, outside of injury, 100% participation. 91 guys on the roster. Think about this. And he's talking about basically a new team, 19 free agents, 24 total rookies, either undrafted or drafted. That's a good chunk. Mm-hmm. And 44 of that 91, 25 years or younger.
Whoa.
So just think about, from sheer numbers, what we're trying to take a look at and all they're trying to digest and put all together. I think the first thing, just in noticing, as Mac would say, who's who in the zoo, just watching Cam Ward immediately. The quick whip delivery with the sidearm throw, and for the most part accurate. Now, as we got deeper into minicamp, Denard Wilson and the defense he started mixing things and looks in there, and when they got into high and low red zone work and third down work, got more difficult. It's a little different ball game from 7-on-7. 7-on-7 makes quarterback look like, the rock star, as evidenced by the first day where Cam finished with 18 straight completions. That's everybody was writing and talking about that. But you knew the other shoe was going to drop, and Denard Wilson's going to say, "Whoa, hang on a second. Let's test things." And it's so important for the integral structure of this team as strengths and weaknesses and matchups and those things, and throwing guys into the fire to see where they are. But the zest was there. The participation certainly was. But that's what I'd like to defer to Mac and ask, just from an operational standpoint, from Bryan Callahan, knowing this is his second tour in through this stuff. Was there anything noticeable that he might have done differently from year one without giving trade secrets away?
Well, yeah, I mean, he did. I mean, and we know, look, he is a very detailed note taker. He's a journaler, and we know that. I mean, that's what he does. And so you can tell there are some tweaks that he made. One of the things he did, he divided this team up into 8 teams. I mean, if you ever saw the board, as far as the way they keep totals and keep scores, it's pretty intricate. It's pretty cool. But it kept the energy going during practice, as far as the competition, as much as you can compete without pads on. I mean, that's one thing that I noticed. The other thing that I noticed, Amie, the common thread that ran through, especially the draft choices, they have got some real football maturity about them. As young players, they're very football mature. You say, Coach Mack, what do you mean by that? You can tell that they're all about business. I mean, I've never seen Matt Thompson and his group be so busy before and after practice, just for an example, with the jugs machines. Mm-hmm. Everybody is over there. And then after practice, these rookies aren't looking forward to getting out of the building. I mean, and, we know what the story is with Cam coming here at 5 a.m. and having a big group with him. These guys are football serious, but they're football mature. I mean, I noticed that really quick, and you could just see that just in the way that they worked. And the vets appreciate that maturity early on, because Rhett just gave us the numbers. The Titans are going to depend on a lot of young players. This year, with this rebuild, you're going to depend on a lot of young players, and you need them to be mature, and they are.
Well, before we move on, I would like to say, for the record, I do not think journaler is a word.
It's not?
I don't think so.
Well, what do you talk about when you do a journal?
You're journaling, but I don't think that makes you a journaler, does it? It's like hamburglar. That's kind of where my brain went with that.
I didn't say he's a hamburger.
Hamburger.
I say he keeps journals. Journaler.
He's a journaler.
And one is thieving hamburgers from a certain fast food establishment.
It might be. No, let's put.
One who journals.
Wait, I'm going to look it up.
Okay, you Google it.
Here it is right here. Wait, Mac Webster, journaler. We're good.
Mac Webster.
Of course. Of course.
Oh, my gosh. I do want to keep talking about Cam Ward, though, while I bring this train back on track after derailing it. Because Cam's development is going to be an interesting thing to watch. We know he's a really mature guy already. He hits that standard that sometimes a rookie quarterback needs to build up to. It seems, by all accounts, that he's already there from a maturity standpoint. Now it's intake of information, learning how to manage an offense, how to run it, and how to play at the next level. Mac, I guess the question in all of that is, what are the actual measurable benchmarks that you can look at to see that he is improving and that he is growing? Because I don't necessarily think that 18 straight completions in 7-on-7, for example, because we just talked about it, it is really the measure of being ready to play week one, because there's so many things, to Rhett's point, that are in your favor as a quarterback. So what are the things that we can look to say, hey, he does seem like he's improving, that maybe aren't statistics?
Is he on time? Is he accurate?
Okay.
Those are two things you look at. And the other thing is, how do you handle adversity?
Okay.
Because you're not always going to complete 18 in a row. And there's going to be bad throws. There's going to be improper throws. The defense is still trying to play too. Let's everybody understand that.
They are also paid.
Yeah, they're paid, and they're paid a lot. But they are trying. I spent a big part of my career trying to mess up quarterbacks, and so. But how you handle the adversity of it is huge. You can't let, as a quarterback, you cannot let a negative play crush you internally and then externally body language-wise. You cannot, because all eyes are on you. I've been very impressed with the way that he's very even-keeled. There's not a lot that knocks this guy off of the square that he's on. I mean, he's pretty much a centered dude. And when it isn't the right play, all he's looking for is how do I correct it, and then how can I do the next play even better. But he's got a great ability right now, just from what I've seen, and I've been to every practice and have watched him. If it's not right, then he's very, very quick to put that behind him and go make the next thing right.
Well, and he's in a room with a lot of veterans who can help him. Rhett, how do you think that being in a room with Brandon Allen, with Tim Boyle, even with Will Levis, is going to help him achieve those goals?
Well, when you look at, and yes, Will Levis has enough experience. He can add value to the conversation of what to do and not do and those things. But when you're speaking about Brandon Allen and even Tim Boyle, I mean, both of those guys have been around for a minute. Just sharing what works might work exactly for Cam, but maybe like, here's what worked for me in this situation. When you're getting this look, think about this. What pitfalls to possibly avoid, because they're actually playing the same position you're playing. So you're getting the firsthand. It's not, and the other part of it, not that Cam wouldn't listen to his teammates or certainly his coaches, but it's a different perspective that lines with something. You're in the same position group room with these guys, and they're doing the same things with you, going through this with you. So I think that's where all that starts. And maybe something that Brandon Allen or Will Levis or Tim Boyle say stands out that maybe even the coach hadn't thought about. A different perspective, I think, is what you get.
But see, all of that is true. But what drew them to Cam Ward in this draft process was that intrinsic quality that he had to be able to do that during competition. And then in all the meetings they had, you know how many meetings that you have when you're vetting somebody for the draft, especially the number one pick, especially a quarterback. You try to dig in and find out who that person is and how that is going to magnify itself in all instances. So that was inside of him to begin with. That's one of his greatest qualities, is the fact that he is grounded enough and he is genuine enough as to who he is that he's able to keep his eye on what he is doing and not worry about. And worry is a different word when you're a quarterback. You've got to be able to flush that stuff, and he's got a great ability to do that.
He also has a great ability to process information. I really laughed when Coach Callahan was talking at a media availability throughout minicamp. I don't remember which day it was, but he was talking about how he was giving play calls to Cam in his helmet listening device. And while Cam was talking like trash, essentially. And so Callie was trying to figure out, do I wait until you're done saying whatever thing you need to say to someone else, and then I talk to you? And he's like, no, I can do both. It's fine. I personally, you can ask my husband and my children, cannot talk and listen to information at the same time. I can't do it. I am giving information or I am intaking information. Those are two separate experiences for my brain. Cam Ward can do them simultaneously, and he can do it fast.
Well, the processing part of it is that you ask me about what you look at when you're vetting quarterbacks and you're watching. Processing is huge because, I mean, they've got to take a lot of information in, both visually, listening, seeing, process, quick. It's quick. But you can learn some of that. But again, some of that, some people are just better at it than others. He seems to be pretty natural with that.
And it points to the reports about them using the virtual reality program like was used with Jaden Daniels in Washington, and using that with Cam. Obviously, now they're doing a total different thing. It's fit to what they're doing here offensively. But from what I understand, and there was a great piece, I don't remember if it was in The Athletic or whatever, about that when Jaden Daniels was having such success last season. They told the story about the VR device that he would wear, is that you plug and play and you put in all of your offense and the situations, and then you speed that up. I think it's up to over 1.5 times what real time is. And so you do so many reps on that. And I think once you acclimate to it, and this seems to be what Jaden Daniels does, is it seemed like it led you towards that when the light switch comes on and everything starts going. We talk about players getting in slow motion, seeing plays, things develop. I think that's an aid to help him using technology to do that. And with what Mac's talking about with his recognition skills, I'm sure he'll probably do very well at that.
Wow, that's incredible.
And
that
all that
technology
being
even
said,
exists.
he's still going to have challenges.
This summer, SeatGeek has your ticket to the best live concerts in Nashville at Nissan Stadium. SeatGeek has the best seat, your seat, for an unforgettable summer. From rock royalty to rap superstars, R&B to country, find it all on SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of Nissan Stadium. Little Caesars is the official pizza partner of your Tennessee Titans. Download the Little Caesars app and get your favorites delivered today. Delivery fees apply. Now, back to the OTP.
Big challenges. Because, again, just knowing it from the other side of it for a lot of years, that's the first thing you do. That is how you test a young quarterback's mettle when you're on defense. You're going to test it. You're going to test it quick.
Yeah.
And then if they stand up to it, then you got to figure out that you're in for a fight. If they melt, then you got them.
Well, somebody that was really interested in testing Cam Ward that we saw during mandatory minicamp was Jeffrey Simmons. Excited to have Jeffrey Simmons here. It was great to have him on the field. It was great to hear him yelling at somebody on the field again. It's such a soothing tone to Titans fans, you know? It's like the sounds of football are slowly coming back. Jeffrey Simmons is giving someone a hard time. It all feels normal and complete for us. But it was important to him to be able to throw some of that adversity at him, to kind of push him and needle him and see how it would go. But that's what Jeffrey Simmons does. That's part of being a leader on defense, right?
I think that's certainly his style. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because he is a multi-captain, multi-Pro Bowler. And that may not be the approach for everybody in that position, but that's certainly the Jeffrey Simmons school, for lack of a better term. And the other part of that story is Cam Ward gave it right back to him. And Cam did not step down. And now I wouldn't advise that necessarily in a real-life game situation, you know, unless you have offensive linemen there.
Right.
A large human being like Jeffrey Simmons. But it was interesting to see that just kind of unfold and saying, hey, Rook, welcome to the league. This is for real now. And it's going to be problematic for you at times.
But see, the way that Cam Ward reacted to that,
yeah,
that brings those guys. I mean, the offensive lineman, I got no doubt in my mind, because he's going to get challenged by
everybody.
I mean, he's going to be challenged by everybody. It's going to be challenged when we go down to Tampa Bay to practice, to Atlanta. But I would bet with a lot of money in my pocket that those offensive linemen are going to have his back, no matter what. Knowing
that he'll see Will Anderson's and Daniil Hunters of the world because of the division, and Liatu Latu, and you know the guys that are in Jacksonville, Indy, and Houston. And while we're talking about defense players for a second, that's another takeaway for me, is watching Frank Bush work with Cody Barton, who was one of the main free agent pickups in this, a vet, smart player, going to be counted on a lot, and working with the young fellas he's got in the rest of that room. And I'm going to call this little mini segment Lost in the 50s, because what comes before 52? 51. Well, 51 is Cedric Gray. And that's a guy that lost a lot of time last year due to an injury this time of the year last year and missed his first 10 games of his rookie season. And so he's still acclimating to things, but you can see the flashes. And then James Williams, who did not have those unfortunate issues and got some playing time, played teams. He come very close to making some plays in practice, some that he wanted back that he thought he should have had in his hands. Those are two very interesting pieces to go in this second tier of the defensive puzzle.
Well, it's going to be extreme. I mean, I've seen Cody Barton play. I've watched him in Denver. I know how he sets his pads against opponents. I still want to see these young guys set their pads against opponents. Mm-hmm. That's why, again, what Bryan Callahan is doing with his football team, taking this team on the road for 2 preseason games, and that's huge. That is huge. That is going to be that work is going to be magnified by 2 or 3, and it's very important. It's really important. I've never put my stamp of approval on any linebacker I've ever coached until the pads come on, because that's where they make their living. To Rhett's point, those 2 young guys look much further ahead than they were when we saw them on the field last year. And, of course, Gray was way behind. Williams was coming from a safety position. But Frank Bush and those players have done a nice job. I'm really looking forward to seeing when the pads come on against other people, because if those dudes – I really like Barton. Mm-hmm. Barton's a player. And if those other 2 can fulfill the roles that they want them to fulfill, that goes a huge step in tying the front and the back together.
The other part about this, too, is seeing the new pieces and parts and who has the personalities. Cody Barton, personality, mm-hmm. vocal. Even though he's a rookie, Femi Oladejo, personality, vocal. And then obviously you pepper in the regulars. I mean, certainly Arden Key is just full of life and electricity and loves to talk. Same thing with Jeffrey Simmons. But just to see some of these guys that are, talking the talk and trying to walk the walk at the same time.
Just seeing Arden Key, though, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, mm-hmm. to me, he's hit another level of maturity, too. Mm-hmm. He's been in the league quite a while, but he's worked. And he's working. So, I mean, every one of those pieces has to fall in place. And there's some young guys in the back end that I'm really looking forward to seeing when it really gets heated up.
Well, Cody Barton, a big free agency acquisition for this team. Are there other free agency acquisitions that have really stood out to you throughout this mandatory minicamp or offseason as a whole process? Is there anyone else who's had a big impact like that?
Well, Zeitler's going to be
that was
exactly
my one. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Kevin Zeitler.
He reminds me of, again, some of those old school, because he is old school, mm-hmm. offensive guards. I mean, when he walks out of the locker room, you go, well, that's an NFL guard. I think that's going to be that's going to be huge. Our whole left tackle situation, I have to feel is going to be better. It's just going to be better. And then plus, you talk about getting J.C. Latham over to the right side and being the new bodied J.C. Latham mm-hmm. is something I'm really looking forward to seeing too.
I'll give you a couple more. Staying on the offensive line, Blake Hance, mm-hmm. another veteran offensive line swing person that can help to be a stabilizing force. He is someone that has shown up in this camp that has just concluded. And one of the free agency acquisitions I really, really liked on a one-year deal is Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones is going to provide some much-needed help in a spot as a bigger – he's built like almost like a 4-3 end, and I think he can bring help from there. Certainly on the outside as a linebacker, the guy's got stats and he's consistent, and that was a good get for them. And I think it's going to be a good person to kind of move around in some things for Denard Wilson.
Well, you're going to see what Denard's going to. I mean, that's a guy too. If you watch his his tape where he's been in the league. I mean, he can play anywhere from a 9, which is on clear the outside of the tight end, all the way down to a shade and a 0. Oh, I mean, this guy's a very versatile defensive front player. I'm like Rhett. I'm looking forward to seeing how Denard's going to piece all of that together.
I was going to end the show with this question, but I'm too excited. I want to talk about it right now. And that's position group that you're the most excited about heading into training camp. And while I'm really interested in hearing what you guys have to say, I'm going to go first because I don't want you to take mine. Mine is the tight ends. I am so excited about what this offense is going to do with this group of tight ends. Mac, at practice the other day, I asked you if I was irrationally excited.
No, you're right.
And I mean, it's still possible that I am, but seeing what they're able to do as pass catchers, seeing what they're able to do as blockers, seeing what they're able to do just in being used, which is something that is still kind of relatively new to a Titans offense over the last maybe 3 or 4 years. We didn't see a lot of tight end involvement in some of those exciting big plays. We saw them as blockers over and over and over again because the line needed extra help. So now I'm so excited to see them really be involved in the offensive effort as a whole and really involved in the game plan. I mean, I'm like Delaney Walker, Jonnu Smith era excited about the Titans tight ends this season.
You're not wrong.
No.
You're not wrong. I mean, you look at the group and you look at them as a whole.
They're big.
Well, and they got length. Mm-hmm. And then each one of them has a little bit different of a skill set, but they're all, and you're right. We're sitting there watching them go through a sled drill, and you said, and you're right. I mean, that's a good position group right there because they look different. Mm-hmm. And I believe they're probably going to be used a little bit differently too. So I agree with you. My group's the offensive line. Yeah. I spend a lot of time with the offensive line. That's where I start every practice once the draft was over, is down there watching Bill Callahan just work these guys. And that's what I'm looking forward to because they've got guys in the right places now. I mean, and just, across the board. Cushenberry's not back yet. But once you get your center back in there, but they've not only the starters, but I think they've got probably, you can suit up 8 offensive linemen on an active roster, and get one exemption if you suit up 8 offensive linemen. I think they've genuinely got 8 that they can suit up, and you got a couple of swing guys. I'm looking forward to seeing how that comes around.
Hey, Titans fans, with a Kroger Boost membership, you'll score big with double fuel points, free delivery, and lots more. Go to Kroger.com/boost for details. Kroger, the official grocer of the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up. Home is the forefront of all we do. It's why we're so committed to caring for the places and spaces in which we work and live. Ashley, the official furniture provider of the Tennessee Titans. Now, back to the OTP.
We'll go back to the tight ends, your position group, for just a moment. It's clear why they drafted Gunnar Helm in day 3 of the draft, and clear that they have some plans for him. Mm-hmm. But I am equally excited about Chigakonkwo's involvement in this, and people have made much about the newly reshaped body of Jeffrey Simmons, who they just saw this week. And also what J.C. Latham has done in trying to move into a solid second season. Don't get lost. Chigakonkwo's done work in that area too, because he's a big guy, but he looks different. Mm-hmm. And I think going into the territory he is with his tenure with the Titans, he's trying to do what's right to get things over the hump. The group that I don't know if excited is the word, but I think I'm one of the most intrigued about is the wide receiver group, just because they have 13 of them right now.
That's a lot.
And
that's a lot.
You can try to pencil in whoever you want, and yeah, you can, first 3 or 4 names, you can pretty much figure, barring injury or something unforeseen. That's, Calvin Ridley's going to be on this football team. Mm-hmm. Who, by the way, there's another observation, super happy guy now, right?
Yeah, I was going to say he's doing good.
2024 is in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
But there's 13 guys. And do they keep 6? Do they somehow keep 7? Where's the other numbers work from positionally? If you just keep 6, you've got another 7, 8 guys, 9 guys fighting for 1 or 2 spots in this stuff. And I think how all that shakes out is going to be fascinating. And I go back to Mac's point about 2 straight preseason road games and a good chunk of time out of town at both spots. with joint practices leading up to said preseason games.
Something else I'm looking forward to, and I've got experience with this, and I really believe I know how it's going to be, but to watch the special teams under Bones Fossil.
You
Man.
read my mind, Mac.
Well, because that's a real thing. It's a real thing, and you know, the public hadn't been exposed to Bones Fossil yet. I mean, my office was close with his for 6 years. I know what he is. I mean, and I know. I mean, we won games before with the teams that I was with Bones with special teams, and it's just he's very, very unique. But he just coalesce is a word, right?
Yes,
it's a good word.
It is. Journaler is not, though. I Googled it. But yes, coalesce is totally
Is
a
that
word.
Mac Webster?
Because Mac Webster says journaler is good, right?
Mac Webster
This
says
just says dictionary.com.
Okay.
Okay,
there
well,
you
that's
go. Free plug.
don't go with that. But Bones, this is going to be something that's going to help this football team holistically.
Where are we going to see the biggest impact, you think, in the special teams effort overall from
Consistency.
Bones? Okay. That's great. Consistency is something
Consistency is that's what Bones is all about. And then, you know, and again, he's made a name in this league as a premier special teams coach, being consistent, but also very, very innovative. He's innovative, and his guys are always on top of their game. It's a fascinating room to be in, to listen to him game planning week to week as to how they're going to match opponents. But consistency, I'll start with that because that's something that we need there.
And seeing who the personal protector is, who's vying for those spots, who's going to be the returners in this. And then I've just been watching Joey Sly come in and kick field goals. And Johnny Hecker, I mean, Mac goes back a long way with him as he was brought into the league, and Bones Fossil was the guy that helped find and get him in there. My goodness, what a punter. And directional skills out the wazoo and hang time to go with it.
Yep.
I mean, ridiculous in just directional punting. No wonder he has so many Pro Bowls and All-Pro selections under his belt and has been around as long as he has. Joey Sly, I think, could be an extra help in that category as he has bounced around from place to place. But Morgan Cox, talking about consistency, there's a mainstay consistent person. But yeah, that whole phase fascinates me as to how some of those things work out.
Johnny Hecker tried to boost our Coach Max sign here
Johnny
in the
Hecker and I go back a long
podcast
way,
studio
and
at
I'm going
St.
to tell
Thomas
Heck,
Sports
keep
Park.
your hands off of that.
He tried to take it right off the wall.
the Coach
He's a
Mac
big enough
hatch
dude. He can
print.
pull that off,
Yeah.
too.
You know what? Johnny Hecker is and again, we'll get off of this, but if a guy can get better with age, and again, Bones, you realize Bones went out when we took over the Rams, and I know this isn't part of this OTP.
Sure it is.
It is now.
We had no kickers, none. So Jeff Fisher said, Bones, once we got him hired, go out and find us a kicker and a punter, free agent, and that's who they'll be the starters. We're not going to bring anybody else in. You go find them. Goes to Oregon State, finds Johnny Hecker. He goes to Missouri Southern Mules, to find Greg the Leg. Those guys 13 years in the league. But Johnny Hecker, now I haven't been with Heck for a while, since I left the Rams. He's better than he was there. Mm-hmm. With his directional, I mean, this guy is special, but he can't have that.
Your sign?
No, he cannot have the Coach Mac hatch print.
I'm going to I'll put a sign on the sign that says "Do not touch," especially if you're Johnny Hecker.
Say Hecker.
This is not yours.
Heck. Mac says
Hands
don't
off,
touch.
especially you, Johnny Hecker.
Heck no.
There it is.
All right. So to wrap this up a little bit, Coach Callahan said in his press conference that he wants guys to take a smart vacation. For those who aren't familiar with the schedule, players are now able to leave for the most part. Rookies will linger for another week, but most players are free to go after mandatory minicamp is over. They have about 6 weeks, and then they report for training camp. And as you know, once training camp starts, we are in it to win it, man. We are going up 100 miles an hour straight towards the Super Bowl. But before that, you've got about 6 weeks to do whatever you need to do. Callie said he hopes that guys will take smart vacations. Mac, what is a smart vacation?
Well, first of all, you need to get away for a little bit. But you still need to do what we term in professional sport, active rest. Don't lose. Look, these guys have worked hard to get to where they are right now physically. Don't lose that. You need to build on top of that. The other thing you need to do is decompress a little bit. But you really don't have that much because you need to come back in even better physical condition than you leave, because what you're going to be asked to do once you get back is much more strenuous than what you've been doing. Now it's going to be every day. You get a break at 10 weeks right now. So you've built a good foundation. Don't ruin the foundation where you have to start over physically. That's number one. Number two, I've been in charge of teams before, and I'm sure that this came out of Coach Callahan's mouth. It comes out of every head coach in this league's mouth at this time of year, and it's very simple. Don't be that guy.
Yep.
Don't. And that's enough said. Everybody else is everybody's cognizant of what's, just don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. You can still have active rest. You can still have a good family vacation, a good single vacation, but keep in mind what's coming. And believe me, that time goes fast. But as good a condition as this team is in right now, we started this OTP off talking about the participation, and then even the guys that weren't here, what good shape they came back in, so they've worked. Don't crater that until you report for training camp. That's huge, and you got to understand it.
How many times have we heard Max say the 6 weeks or so between the end of this and the start of training is something it kept him up nights, making sure don't be the guy, don't end up in the wrong place, wrong time, and do something silly.
Yep. Everybody knows who that guy is. Nobody wants to be that
guy.
Don't
be that guy, and it's very simple not to be, because you know what those circumstances are. Just don't be. There's so much that you've worked for. It's all right there for you. It's an exciting time. People are excited about this team now. This team is excited. They've worked hard. Just maintain.
Do you remember, it's like your grandmother telling you. Did your grandmother ever tell you, idle time is the devil's workshop?
Yes. Yes.
It's true. Grandma wasn't
idle
wrong.
Without the devil. You can be a journaler.
You could be a journaler. Oh, my goodness.
But there's a lot of truth to what Grandma said.
You don't ever not believe your grandmother.
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, guys, next stop, training camp.
Wow.
Isn't it crazy?
It is crazy.
Look at how far we have come, and there is so much more to do.
Seems like we were just at this desk for the draft.
I know.
Yeah.
It really
Right?
does. And we've covered a lot of ground. We've done a lot of football. And now we're going to take a little break. We will still have OTPs. Of course, we would never leave you hanging without OTPs. But then camp and training camp, which starts towards the end of July.
July 22nd, they report.
July 22nd, they
23rd,
report.
you got 4 days of indoctrination, and then you're rolling.
Back Together Saturday is July 26th.
At Nissan Stadium.
At Nissan Stadium.
Woo!
There we
so
go.
there's a lot coming up, and we will have everything for you every step of the way. But in the meantime, if you're looking for more Titans content, TennesseeTitans.com. Of course, Jim Wyatt's there. He's writing stuff all the time. He's making the rest of us look bad. There's all kinds of content for
Wait a
you.
minute. Jim makes us look good.
No, Jim makes me personally look very bad.
You've never looked bad.
He works so hard.
You do too.
And it's so nice. But, I like naps. And I like a lunch break.
I will say this.
I like to go at my own pace.
Jim has already raised his children, so he doesn't have 2 toddlers.
That's true. That is That is a big difference between Jim White and myself.
There you go.
But anyway, TennesseeTitans.com. If you want to read more about this Titans team, there's tons of stuff there. If you have not subscribed to the official Titans podcast, do that over the summer. Feel free to binge while you're driving to grandma's house. These are good times to do things like that. Get yourself all caught up so you are ready when we all report for training camp in July. For Rhett Bryan, for Coach Mac, I'm Amie Wells, and this has been the OTP.